Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551. And for this video, I'm doing a special My 2 Cent video. This one's going to be a look back at gaming in 2021, though. I'm going to give my thoughts on some of the stories that caught my attention and sort of go through what I like to consider the good, the controversial in the mix, and the bad, though. And this gaming in 2021, there was certainly some stuff that definitely were good, bad, and controversial and mixed. So why don't we start off with the first one, which is the good. And the first one, part of it would be Metroid Dread. This is a game a lot of Nintendo fans and Metroid fans particularly have been waiting for a long time. This game has been rumored for so many years, though, through different generations of consoles, and to finally see the game in action when the first trailer was shown at E3 2021, though, it certainly put a smile on my face and was probably one of the big highlights of Nintendo's presentation at E3 2021, though. This was the classic 2D Metroid vibe and feel to the game that a lot of people, those who enjoy those type of games to be exact, though, and it's certainly nice that the game got the attention it deserved, not only through advertisement, though, but it got even to nominated for Game of the Year at the Video Game Awards. Now, unfortunately, it didn't win though, and that went to It's Take-Two, which, to me, kudos to the developers of that game, to be exact, though, and it's certainly nothing wrong with a smaller title winning Game of the Year, though. Sometimes those smaller titles can be hidden gems and can, to a certain degree, depending on the type of game, though, can be better than a lot of AAA games that are out there. But to see basically at least get nominated, though, is certainly a good thing for the series, though. I believe it did win Best Adventure Game, though, and I also think it made it at Game of the Year for Time Magazine, which certainly is nice indeed. So, great year for Metroid fans. I'm glad that Metroid Dread got the attention it deserves, though. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with Metroid Prime 4. I certainly do believe that pressure is going to be on Retro Studios to really deliver with that game, though, and we patiently wait to see if the rumors about a Metroid Prime Trilogy or a Metroid Prime remaster or remake turns out to be true, though. I would prefer a Metroid Prime Trilogy be ported over to the Switch, but that's my opinion on that one, to be exact. The next one we want to talk about is Capcom, and Capcom certainly had a good 2021 indeed, with several heavy hitters, though. The first one obviously was Resident Evil Village, the sequel to the 2017 Resident Evil 7, though, and while I have yet to review that game at this time, trying to find time to do it, though, I will say the game certainly is enjoyable. Some people had some issues with it, but I certainly enjoyed the game, especially since I definitely got a bit of a Resident Evil 4 vibe out of that game, which certainly isn't a bad thing, since I consider Resident Evil 4 the best entry in the Resident Evil series, though. And of course, Capcom also released two heavy hitters in the Monster Hunter series, Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter Stories 2. Both of those games did very well on the Nintendo Switch, indeed, though. Rise just recently released onto PC, on the Steam, and from what I understand, it's doing well based off some of the Steam charts or some of the stories I'm hearing about that, though. Same with Monster Hunter Stories 2, though. Even though both games are somewhat different, as Stories tend to be more closer to the RPG, a little bit closer to the Pokemon style, though. Rise is somewhat different, but either way, it's still both those games are still enjoyable and fun. Rise definitely was very impressive to see how the RE Engine game would work on the Nintendo Switch, and it could open the door to future games running on that engine coming to the Nintendo Switch indeed, though. And seeing Stories 2, the sequel to the first one that was originally released on the Nintendo 3DS, definitely nice to see both of these games getting the attention they deserve. The next one is going to be about Bandai Namco, and they had, in my view, two heavy hitters in 2021. The first one was Scarlet Nexus, an action RPG from the same folks who did the Tales series. That was a pretty good game, to be exact, though. To me, though, it definitely got a little bit of a Astro Chain vibe to it, and while it wasn't developed by, say, it didn't have that platinum Platinum feel, or close as to what Astro Chain did, it was still an enjoyable action RPG, nevertheless, especially seeing the two characters, different storylines, how some of them connect to a certain degree, though. So it was definitely a fun game from the developers who worked on the Tales series, though. I think that one did very well in terms of sales-wise, which I think that's very good. Hopefully Scarlet Nexus 2 will happen someday, though. And of course, we also got Bandai Namco's Tales of Arise, the newest entry in Bandai Namco's Tales series, and that one also did very well, indeed, for a game developed on the Unreal Engine 4 and being released on both PS4, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and of course PC, though. It is still a fun game, especially for those who are into the Bandai Namco Tales series, though, and it certainly did very well, and I think it also got nominated for Best RPG at the Game Awards, indeed, but I don't think it won, though. I'm not 100% sure about that, but either way, it's nice to see that both those games did well in 2021. Looking forward, and hopefully we'll see what Bandai Namco has to offer in 2022. The next one has to do with Square Enix, and while Square Enix certainly had its ups and downs in 2021, though, they did have some heavy hitters, though. There were three, though. Two that I think that I'm glad did very well were Nier Replicant and Bravely Default 2, though. Nier Replicant being the prequel to Nier Automata and all, was definitely a fun action game, indeed, and it was definitely an enjoyable game. From its combat, story, to its music, which I think is one of the big highlights of that game, though. And while it wasn't exactly developed by Platinum Games or anything, it did have some developers who did work at Platinum, and you still had somewhat of that Platinum vibe to the game, though. And Bravely Default 2 was definitely a fun game, though. I'm glad that one did very well. I think it's shipped over 1 million copies, to be exact, though. And it definitely was great for those who are fans of Octopath Traveler, to be exact. And I do hope that this opens the door to maybe remaking or possibly remaking the first Bravely Default or Bravely Second. That would be really great if that happens, though. But probably the one game that kind of surprised me from Square Enix was Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, though. I went into this with some cautious expectations on this game, because given the reputation that Marvel's Avengers has gotten, though, I was a little worried that this game was going to be that kind of situation, though. But the good news is the game turned out to be much better than I had originally thought, though, and it definitely kind of showed had Marvel, how good of a Marvel game could be if they had not focused on the live service part like they did with the Avengers game. It just makes you wish we could have gotten a good Avengers game from them had they not did always online live service. So great to see Guardians of the Galaxy doing very well, though. I would be open to see how they would do in terms of a sequel, to be exact, though. Excuse me. The next one has to do with Aulx with Shin Megami Tensei 5, though. Now, this game was originally announced around the time the Switch just came out back in 2017, and this game was sort of in development for a long time. Many people thought the game would not basically ever see the light of day. We saw this happen with Steep, that was originally announced from Ubisoft that would be coming to the Switch, but that never happened at all, and the game eventually got canceled. Many had fears that this was going to be the case with Shin Megami Tensei 5, but that never happened, and the game finally came out in November to a much bigger fanfare than a lot of people thought it would be. The game certainly is enjoyable and fun, and the RPG mechanics are definitely good, especially if this is your first time playing an Aulx game, or if you've played Tokyo Mirage Session and never played any other Aulx game before, though. So it certainly nice to see this game sort of getting the attention it deserves. Plus, last time I checked, supposedly the game shipped about 800,000 copies worldwide, which is certainly not bad for a title that is, you could say, is somewhat of a niche title, to be exact. But in either case, great for Aulx with Shin Megami Tensei 5, though. And last but certainly not least, this one's going to be about Microsoft, though. And Microsoft certainly had a very good 2021, though. They were going into the Xbox Series X and S in sort of a very awkward position, considering how the Xbox One didn't perform as well as Microsoft would have hoped for it to be. Some of that were some of the bad decisions they made earlier on, though, but they decided to move on with the Series X and the Series S, and it seems as though their strategy has seemed to have paid off, as they had three heavy hitters in 2021 that proved to do very good for them. Psychonauts 2, the long-awaited sequel to the very first Psychonauts from Tim Schafer, Forza Horizon 5, the new entry into the Forza series, and of course, excuse me, Halo Infinite, a game that was originally supposed to be a launch title back in 2020 for the Xbox Series X and S, but got delayed when not everyone was happy with the way the game looked, to be exact, and that may have paid off in the end for them, as the game did turn out to be better than what people had thought it would be, though. So Microsoft certainly had a very good 2021 indeed, though. It will be interesting to see how 2022 plays out for them. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, and this one has to be a look at the controversial and the mix. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of this special My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at stories that were, excuse me, controversial and mixed. Stories that certainly some folks were divided on. Some people were okay with this, some people were not. So everyone certainly had a different view on this one, to be exact. The first one has to do with what is basically the whole stock market in GameStop, or GameStop short squeeze, though. And that has to do with the fact of how some folks drove up the stock of GameStop on using this Robinhood app in terms of investment as sort of a way to kind of, quote, stick it to Wall Street, as many felt like the larger investor firms had more control over it than the average person, though. This whole situation involving with GameStop, though, basically dragged a lot excuse me, caught a lot of people's attention, not only in the gaming world, but even in politics, all the way up to folks ranging from both sides of the aisle, like Representative AOC, to Ted Cruz, to even President Joe Biden, and all. And it brought up the issue of regulations in terms of a lot of the stuff with basically Wall Street and all. Now, I'm not really a big investor or anything like that, though, but it was very interesting to see how people drove that stock up, and surprisingly, some people actually made money off of this whole situation. But there's no denying a lot of people also lost money throughout this situation, indeed. So, excuse me, very interesting situation to see with GameStop and the whole stock market situation that turned out to be. The next one has to do with Bethesda and Starfield. Now, in 2021, Microsoft completed its full acquisition of ZeniMax and basically purchasing Bethesda, to be exact, owning the rights to a lot of their IPs, from Fallout, Skyrim, to Dishonor, Evil Within, all these studios now being owned by Microsoft. And one of the big questions was basically involving the game Starfield. This game was announced before Microsoft officially purchased Bethesda. And there were comments that Bethesda made in terms about Starfield, ranging from exclusivity or not. And some people were wondering, was there any hope that Starfield would be coming to the PS5 or other systems, to be exact? Bethesda had to sort of clarify that, kind of like they were misspoken, though. And the truth of the matter is that unless the game is in the situation that Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo were in, where those games were contractually obligated to be released, since Bethesda signed a deal with Sony, though, before being purchased by Microsoft, though, then the most likely scenario, along with Elder Scrolls 6, is that Starfield is only going to appear on either the Xbox Series X and S, and PC, and of course Game Pass, which is if you want to play Starfield, you're going to have to get those systems or get it on PC though, which while some people may be disappointed in this though, it's not really shocking to hear this at all. And I think that this whole idea of if it's going to come or not kind of needs to be put to rest. Bethesda didn't really do a good job trying to clarify it when they talked about it, but later tried to clarify it though. But still, this should have been still. This whole situation is sort of ridiculous now, and obviously we know Starfield will only appear on the Xbox systems, PC, and Game Pass. So it's ultimately this whole story is put to rest though. But Bethesda kind of could have done a better job clarifying that position though. The next one has to do with Call of Duty Vanguard. Now, putting aside the whole situation with Activision Blizzard, which I will get to in the bad though, Call of Duty has been kind of Activision Blizzard's sort of moneymaker and releasing pretty much every game every single year. Well, it seems as though Call of Duty Vanguard did not get the attention that Activision Blizzard was certainly hoping for, as the game didn't sell as much as it could have been. Because it was also competing against two other games, Battlefield 2044, which unfortunately that one had its own set of issues when that game launched though. Even though they were aiming for a multiplayer only kind of experience, it's still having bugs and glitches, so much so that it's seen some of its player base drop a little bit though, compared to what we saw with like Halo Infinite, which seems to be getting better praises than these two games have. But to see what happened with Call of Duty Vanguard though, while it is unfortunate though, I just feel like it's gotten to the point where Activision Blizzard is not only milking the Call of Duty brand to death, which they've been doing that for a long time though, but it comes off as basically this is their only game. This is the only game they seem to pay more attention to than any other of their franchise and IPs. I mean, yeah, they'll throw a bone with Crash Bandicoot and maybe Tony Hawk, but what else? I mean, this is it. This is what they rely on, really. Call of Duty as their big moneymaker, though, and to see Vanguard's not going to do well, it does make you kind of wonder, is this a sign of trouble for the Call of Duty franchise as a whole, though? While Warzone seems to be doing very well for them, it's unclear. It's going to be interesting to see if they continue releasing a Call of Duty game every year, though. Now, obviously, I could have talked about Battlefield 2042, but I just mentioned about the whole situation. That one turns out to be a broken, buggy mess, not sitting well with everyone, to be exact. The next one I do want to talk about is basically Marvel's Avengers, the game, though. This game had a very rocky start when it came out, though. It came from ranging from matchmaking and right up to basically content to even, in a way, Square Enix kind of backstabbing Crystal Dynamics, saying that perhaps it wasn't the smartest thing to go with Crystal Dynamics and have them develop the game, though. And of course, the game also had its ups when it started to appear on Game Pass, and it seemed to have sat very well and do very well indeed, which certainly was something that obviously Square Enix must have been happy about. However, there were also decisions in terms of the microtransactions, which also did not sit very well with a lot of people. So Marvel's Avengers certainly had its ups and downs, but many are still wondering how long until Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix decide to fully abandon the Marvel's Avengers game, like what EA and BioWare are doing with like what they did with just Anthem, to be exact. So many are wondering that could happen, but time will ultimately tell if that's the case, or if how long Square Enix will stick with Marvel's Avengers, whether they will continue with it or eventually pull the plug on that game, to be exact. The next one I do want to talk about is NFTs. Now, I don't know a huge amount of details about the NFTs or anything, but it seems as though a lot of developers are sort of reining in and want to use NFTs for a lot of their games and all. And we've seen companies like Konami, Square Enix, and Sega, and well, let's just say the response to a lot of the gamers have not been very much excuse me, coughing a little bit, very positive though. One situation that has emerged was with the developers of Stalker 2, who are basically considering, were originally going to put NFTs in that game, but backtracked after the backlash out of it though. It does make you kind of wonder if one of the reasons to delay the games was maybe to pull out all the NFTs in that game. And it should serve as a cautious tale to developers about the idea of using NFTs, to be exact. I mean, I can see why some people are concerned that this could be another scheme or money-making kind of a scheme, to be exact. We've known Ubisoft has known, companies like Ubisoft have been trying to push for, recurring user spending, and NFTs is being one of them. And I can see why some people are not happy about the whole issue with NFTs. And I really think if NFTs are going to be the new thing, though, I seriously think there needs to be some regulations to ensure it's not being used to con or rip people off, to be exact. So I really think there needs to be some issues, some serious rules and regulations in regards of NFTs. At least that's how I saw it, though. And last but not least, in the controversial mix, though, we saw basically a court battle between Apple and Epic. It also went after Google, though, and this all had to do with the issue surrounding Fortnite in terms of some of the decisions Apple has made in terms of certain fees and all. Epic decided to go around Apple, and Apple kind of retaliated by basically pulling Fortnite off of their storefront, to be exact, though. And other places like Google have also stepped in as well. And some companies have defended Apple's, other has defended Epic, and it really opened up a Pandora box of a lot of things, to be exact, though. In the end, I think the ruling was that while Apple wasn't 100% monopolized it, though, they certainly had to change some of their policies, to be exact, though. And they certainly have to some degree, but it has certainly really opened the door, really seen what was going on in terms of that battle between Epic and Apple. Some people didn't really pay attention. Others weren't really rooting for either, as both Epic and Apple has their own share of criticisms, and some that are justifiable, to be exact. But in either case, though, it was very mixed and sort of controversial to see the whole battle between Epic and Apple, though. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our third and final part, and this is sort of the bad, so we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our third and final part of our special Mind 2 Cent, a look back in gaming in 2021. So now we're going to go to part 3, which is the bad. These are stuff that unfortunately did not sit well with everybody, to be exact, though, ranging from actions made by certain companies to games that did not turn out as well as people had hoped for, though. The first one has to do with finding a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, though. Now, there's no denying the fact that both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X have been selling very, very well for both companies, to be exact. So they certainly are making money off the sales of these consoles. However, while these consoles have continued to sell very well for Microsoft and Sony, finding them have been a completely different story, and it has been a nightmare for a lot of folks. I was lucky to get my hands on a PS5 around the time before the end of the year, around Christmas, though. I was extremely lucky, but not everybody has been. There have been ranging from a lot of things, from the chip shortage situation caused by the pandemic to the issue with bots and scalpers for those who basically use that to buy multiple consoles and resell them on eBay, to be exact. So it has been a very, very tough situation for a lot of folks, though, and some folks have given up, others have kept trying, and it's been extremely difficult to basically get their hands on one, though. I am hopeful that 2022 turns out to be a better year and people can get their hands on a Series X and a PS5, though. But if the chip shortage continues as to where it is right now, I think this could be another year where a lot of folks are still going to have a hard time buying a PS5 and the Xbox Series X, though. Next one is going to be about Stadia's games and entertainment. Now, this was basically Google Stadia's first-party development studio, though, as they were the first one to, at the time, launch Google Stadia, which was supposed to be this idea of cloud gaming. However, Google Stadia has had a very, very rough time trying to gain traction, though. Some of it has to do with the fact that it launched at a time when it wasn't exactly completed, though. People felt like you were paying for a beta, though. Others basically felt like, given Google's history, this is going to be one of those things where they eventually will go the wayside or into what's called the Google graveyard, to be exact, though. Well, that situation kind of reinforced that argument when it turned out to be in January of 2021, Google announced that they are shutting down Stadia Games and Entertainment, realizing that it takes a lot of money to develop these type of games. This led to a lot of jobs being lost and so forth. And what was interesting was that before this announcement, there were basically reports that the people in charge of Stadia were happy with what was being developed. And so it brought up a whole lot of issues, to be exact, though. And since then, Google has sort of treated Stadia to some degree as an afterthought, though. While Stadia is still alive and there's still games coming to Google Stadia, it has not become sort of the thing Google has hoped to be, though. It hasn't really revolutionized stuff, and it still sort of reinforces the argument of cloud gaming in general. Don't get me wrong, I see cloud gaming having potential, and it could have the potential someday, though, but right now where things are, it hasn't reached that level yet, though. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Microsoft with their xCloud. NVIDIA's GeForce Now is still running, so it's just very interesting, though not shocking to see what happened with Stadia Games and Entertainment. It's very sad what happened to the employees, though, and many feel it's only a matter of time before Google eventually pulls the plug on Stadia altogether. Whether they do or not remains to be seen, but right now it seems to be a white type product where they're licensing their technology to other people out there, to be exact. So either way, a lot of employees lost their job at Stadia Games and Entertainment, and it's very sad that Google kind of pulled the plug on this, but it's not surprising considering how the direction Stadia has been going lately, though. The next one is going to be about Activision Blizzard, and 2021 was not nice to Activision Blizzard at all, though. Activision Blizzard had its share of controversies before. Some of the most infamous one was the whole Hearthstone Blitzchung situation where he said free Hong Kong and all. But what really picked it up this year was allegations of toxic work culture, ranging from a fraternity house type of approach to sexual harassment and the treatment of women at the studio, though. It really kind of drove in there, and even went to seeing a lot of employees leaving, though, and Bobby Kotick was kind of caught in the middle of this, ranging from the fact that he knew about it and didn't do anything, to allegations of sexual harassment that he engaged in as well. This all led to basically the employees at Activision Blizzard pushing to the idea of unionization and all, despite Bobby Kotick hiring someone to investigate, which is known to bust unions before in the past. This really kind of exploded on Activision Blizzard, and their reputation got hit really hard, though. So much so that, as I mentioned in my 2 cent video in the week, though, LEGO postponed the release of a LEGO Overwatch 2 Overwatch 2 set over the relationship of basically Activision Blizzard, to the point that even Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony had to chime in on that, to the point where even Phil Spencer started to say that they were reevaluating their relationship. Now, whether you view it as a PR stunt or not, that's certainly going to be your call on that one. But in either case, it was not good for Activision Blizzard at all. This was a horrible 2021 for them, though. Whether 2022 will be any better for them or not, remains to be seen, but it certainly was not great for Activision Blizzard, though. And of course, Ubisoft was in its share of criticism that led to basically them facing sexual harassment situations and an exodus of staff, though, who feel that they're not happy with the direction the company has been going in terms of basically their obsession with live service, basically NFTs to recurring user spendings. And while they're not the only company, EA is another example, Ubisoft has had their unfortunate share of criticisms, to be exact. So 2021 was not great for Ubisoft, and it certainly was not great for Activision Blizzard. The next thing we do want to talk about is basically GTA Trilogy, or Grand Theft Auto Trilogy. What should have been somewhat of an easy port, or what should have been a celebration of three classic PlayStation 2 games being ported to multiple systems, GTA 3, GTA Vice City, and San Andreas, turned out to be one hell of a mess, though. What started out as rumors about them bringing the game over to even coming to the Nintendo Switch turned out to be an absolute, utter disaster, to be exact. These games were launched in the absolute horrible state for some folks out there who were not happy with the way some of the changes were made to how the game just looked hideous and ugly, though. It even launched basically on Rockstar's launcher, which people had a hard time even getting to the game, though. So much so, it got to the point that Rockstar had to respond by issuing an apology saying that the game did not live up to not only their standards, but your standards. But basically, they had to basically say that they would be releasing patches, though. This basically turned into their take on Cyberpunk 2077, a situation where they spending all this time and resources to patch the game up. On top of that, they gave it to a development team that is only known for basically developing like the mobile version of the classic GTA games, which weren't that great to play in the first place. So it really hurt. It really certainly did not sit great with Rockstar, and it certainly did not sit great with a lot of fans who were looking forward to playing these classic games, especially on the Nintendo Switch. This was completely inexcusable and unacceptable for Rockstar, to be exact, and it does make me kind of worried about if there should be any remasters or remake. Like, as much as some people would like to see Bully, though, get the remaster or remake treatment, I'm not so sure after seeing how they handle the GTA trilogy, though. This is, to me, like an insult to these three classic games, to be exact, and it was very much shame on Rockstar for how they handled the situation, and Take-Two Interactive, to be exact, though. So it's really a very unfortunate disappointment to see what happened to the GTA trilogy, or Grand Theft Auto 3 trilogy, to be exact, though. And last but not least, BalanWonderworld. This became a laughing stock for a lot of folks, though. What should have been a great game to launch from Yuji Naka and the folks who worked on the original Night series, Nights into Dream, or Sonic the Hedgehog series, turned out to be an absolute mess and all. The game really went downhill once basically the demo was released. The demo did more harm than good to the game, and it did not sit well with everyone, though. So basically they had to try to damage control it by talking about all the positive things and then mentioning that there would be a day one patch to rebalance some of the difficulties and do some stuff here and there, but that wasn't enough to save the game as a whole. And when the game finally came out, though, the game became an absolute commercial flop and failure, though. At that point, after the release of BalanWonderworld, Yuji Naka had left Square Enix and somewhat retired, only to come back to work on sort of a smaller title for mobile devices that he worked with on the Unity engine, compared to where BalanWonderworld was working on Unreal Engine 4, though. It's nice to see that he's still working, though, but at the same time, it's really a shame to see how far he has fallen on this, though. It's really sad, especially what happened with BalanWonderworld. This could have been a very unique kind of a game. You definitely got a little bit of a Knights and a Kingdom Hearts vibe to it, which certainly isn't a bad thing. but with so much issues with the game, ranging from the gameplay mechanics to a lot of other things, and the demo just really did a lot of damage to this game, though. I seriously doubt that BalanWonderworld will ever see the light of day ever again, though. I doubt we'll ever get a sequel to that. I think most likely Square Enix wants to forget about that game. So much so that they decided to delete the demo from the internet, scrub it completely, though. Obviously, that's their way of saying they didn't want nothing to do with this game anymore, though. So really unfortunate what happened to BalanWonderworld, and really fortunate what happened with Yuji Naka, though. It's really kind of sad, though, but there were a lot of bad decisions that they made for that game, and I just wish that perhaps maybe they could have taken a step back, re-examined a lot of the stuff, and see maybe that we shouldn't put in 80 outfits or have all the commands on one button. So there could be a lot of things they could have done differently, but BalanWonderworld unfortunately became the joke for 2021 for a lot of folks out there. Okay, this concludes my special My 2 Cent, a look at gaming in 2021, the good, controversial mix, and the bad. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about gaming in 2021? Were there stuff in there that you think I should have added into this list, though? Do you agree with some of the stuff I said? Did you disagree with some of the stuff I said? Were there stuff that you think was as controversial as Mix or as bad as how I described it, though? Or were there stuff that you thought, that really wasn't that good at all? Do you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!